I know it's hard to get your head around, but unfortunately graffiti is more than pretty colours and butterfly murals. Yeah, that's probably a good thing. But if that's too artsy-fartsy for you, graffiti surprisingly extends beyond having a full set of Copic markers and shit talking on the internet. I know, who would have thought? At the core of true graffiti culture is a sense of freedom, happiness, and fulfillment that comes from misadventure, risk-taking, and rule-breaking. For most, it's the excitement of these chills and thrills that keeps writers coming back for more, constantly pushing for that extra kick of adrenaline to send enjoyment levels into overdrive. Most will describe it as a drug, but befittingly, too much can turn deadly. And every year we see a handful of writers fall victim to an art form they hold dear. So here are 10 ways to die doing graffiti. And if you could keep in mind why all these points can be supported, I'm purposefully avoiding mentioning any specific names, incidents, or locations. Number 10, drugs. Sorry to all the kids out there, but unfortunately a lot of hardcore graffiti culture is synonymous with drug use. Every writer probably knows of another writer that has used drugs, and at this point, drug use has probably ingrained itself within graffiti. A lot of the times it's more than just a recreational puff for inspiration, with harder drugs mixing with various mental issues and other personal turmoil to take the lives of a lot of young writers. In all honesty, I would argue that drugs have claimed the lives of more writers than any other point I'm going to mention in this video, but it comes in at number 10 as writers can die from drugs, irrespective of whether they are in the act of doing graffiti, if that makes sense. But that's not to dismiss the fact that going out and painting while high or drunk hasn't led to its fair share of deaths as well. Number 9, suicide. Kind of the same point as the drugs one, their positions are probably interchangeable, but they rank lower on the list because again, writers can take their own life, irrespective of actually doing graffiti. But most of us turn to graffiti as a relief from whatever we're going through in our life, whether it's doing a nice sketch or going out bombing to fuck shit up. The act of graffiti gives us enjoyment, happiness, and an escape mechanism from whatever we're dealing with. But unfortunately, a lot of hidden external issues can compound some writers, and graffiti just isn't enough to get them through. So it's sad to say more than a handful of writers have taken their own life over the years. Number 8, asphyxiation. Alright, so now we start off with the in the act ways. Now, none of these points I'm going to mention are pretty, but some belong more in a Final Destination movie than real life. Some extraordinary cases involve being asphyxiated via makeshift rope, leaving bodies dangling in midair, and although I can't find any specific reports, potential deaths, and no doubt thousands of injuries relating to being impaled and or cut up on barbed wire and spike fences. This 8 spot is dedicated to those one-off cases, unfortunately so unthinkable, it belongs in a movie. Number 7, inundation. How's that saying go? If it rains, no drains. And if you've ever seen a light shower turn into a full-blown downpour, you should probably listen to that advice. And if you aren't clued in, I'm talking about painting in canals and underground drains. This is often a frequented spot for riders and urbexers alike, who go in fine weather, but being down there for many hours haven't realised the weather has taken a turn for the worst outside. And unfortunately, this isn't a water park where people magically appear floating out the other side in an inflatable raft. The current usually gets too strong and too high to handle, and a handful of people have passed away like this. Number 6, security. While perhaps unthinkable in Western countries, some Asian, African, and maybe European countries employ pretty heavy security when it comes to their rail networks. And although in a rider's mind painting a train can be considered pretty harmless, showing up unannounced to a train yard in all black with masks on in the dead of night might not get you the benefit of the doubt that you think you're going to get. And with increased terror threats in some countries, they might be more willing to shoot first and ask questions later. Now, that's a bit dramatic, but say you aren't shot but they throw you in prison. I mean, jailhouse shenanigans might not take your life, but it's a stripping of a lot of your life privileges that at the end of the day just might not be worth it for painting a train. Number 5, beef. As explained in a previous video, graffiti beefs or rivalries can get quite intense. In the internet age, there can just be a lot of online shit talking with not a lot of consequences, but for some, disrespect when it comes to graffiti is sadly enough for lives to be lost. Things like going over people's work, painting in others' claimed locations, or just being generally disrespectful is enough for beatings, robbings, and shootings to go down. In spite of this, graffiti is not usually the sole cause. Other personal, relationship, or gang-related issues can often intensify what started out to be graffiti beef. Number 4, chemicals. It's probably safe to say nearly every writer has had a big paint day, come home and started coughing up a lung and said to themselves, "Fuck, these fumes are killing me." And the truth is, in some capacity, they probably are. A whole bunch of warning labels and suggestions for respirators aren't on spray cans and markers just for fun. Now, I'm not a doctor and I don't really want to get into the technicals of it, but being exposed to these chemicals for decades probably comes with some health risks down the road. Definitely not instant drop dead death, but it's not going to go into your body curing anything, that's for sure. Number 3, electrocution. Now, some train systems are blessed with overhead power lines, meaning riders don't have to worry about being electrocuted while venturing onto the tracks, but others have to be a lot more cautious, with trains being powered underfoot through ground level third rails. Basically an instant electric killer. If you throw into the mix low visibility, other ground hazards, trains whizzing by, and the fear of getting caught, it's pretty easy to forget that there's a taser on steroids right next to your foot. Number 2, falling. They don't call it a heaven spot for nothing. Over the years, a large number of riders have fallen to their deaths in pursuit of that jaw-dropping spot. For some, once that spot is locked into their mind, all ideas of safety fade away until they finally get it done. Whether they know it's going to raise eyebrows or just be up for decades, there's a certain twinkle in a graffiti rider's eyes that makes the reward greater than the risk. Things like rooftops, overpasses, and bridges claim a lot of lives, and the stories, extraordinary as they are, often make the news. And number 1, trains. Everyone has at least heard of, read about, or knows of a graffiti rider struck by a train, and it happens all too often. Often too focused on their own work, they'll not see or hear an oncoming train, or in some cases be painting in a tight location and just have nowhere to go to get out the way. As you can imagine, the results aren't too pretty and the trains often come out on top. It's as simple as that. It places number 1 due to its frequency, notoriety, and perhaps cruel justice. The very object riders glorify can also take their life. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Rest in peace to all our fallen riders. I know we all have an interest and a passion for graffiti and it means so much to us, but at the end of the day you gotta ask yourself, is it worth losing your life over? In no way was this video meant to stop anyone from going out and doing anything, but I just say if you are planning to do something risky, just be safe with it. If you found the video interesting, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more list content like this about graffiti. If you could leave a like, that'd be appreciated, but until next time, thanks for watching and peace out.